guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 89. Models Memory is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about my painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. How could you possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, I got a lot of good modeling done, but first I want to take a look at some of the new models from Games Workshop because I was very pleasantly surprised with the new miniature for Necromunda. Necromunda looks like such a fun game. I bought when Necromunda was coming back out because it's an old game from Games Workshop, but it was like kind of discontinued for years and years and years, but they brought it back and I bought the starter set that came with the Goliaths and the Eschers, and I built all of my Escher ladies and I painted up a couple of them, but now it's been years and years and years, and so now I want to repaint my Escher ladies, but this new model is really fun. Also, this article is really fun. Warhammer community, I would love to know more about like the authorship and like how these are made, because sometimes they're just fine, normal, like new product coming out this week. And then sometimes they're like full of kind of cutesy, kind of cringy flavor text. And sometimes they're really good, like this article. True royalty graces Necromunda. Show obstinance to Lady Hera, 13th daughter of Lord Helmar. Citizens of Necromunda, lay down your weapons, doff the rags you use for caps, and prostrate yourself before the most gracious noble, the Sagius Lord Helmar's 13th true-born heir, the current claimant of the Helmar throne, and bona fide fashion icon, Lady Hera Helmar. She is your better in every way, a royal scion with millennia of breeding, wealthy beyond the dreams of all but the High Lords of Terra, and bristling with technological baubles from a more enlightened age. That said, she is also a sociopath and backstabbing murderer directly responsible for the deaths of dozens of her siblings and rivals, and indirectly accountable for the deaths of many thousands more. A schemer from the cradle, she has gleefully conspired through her short life to ensnare servants and nannies in Byzantine games of duplicity. And when she's not plotting her ascension to the throne of Necromunda, Lady Hera likes a night out in the hives, painting the town red with the blood of anyone foolish enough to get in her way. It's how can you read that and not all just fall in love with this character? And also falling in love with this character, look at her. This weird like medieval suit of armor and this big flowing cloak with like these ruffles and collars and the servo skulls just holding up the ends of her robe. It's beautiful. It's hilarious. It's very grim, dark 40k. Like, these are the models that really get me going. They're ones that are like, 40k is so grim dark that it's often very silly. I think that's why I love the Black Templar so much, because the Black Templar are the most 40k of the Space Marines. You know, some Space Marine chapters are a little bit more tactical, some of them are a little more pragmatic, some of them are a little more Roman, some of them are a little more Viking, but the Black Templar are just big, dumb cathedrals, tassels, banners, candles, and crosses. And that's also what I get out of this model. This model would look great with my Black Templars. Like, I don't know what I would use it as. Maybe a Inquisitor. Although usually the Inquisitors are a little bit more dour, where this model is very, very flamboyant. But I really, really like it. It's hilarious. It's funny. I love her lore. I love that she murdered her nannies when she was like 10. What's the name of that movie where that little kid just goes on a killing spree? I can't remember it, but it's sort of awful and it's sort of hilarious. I love this model. Necromunda looks like so much fun. I don't really know about Ash Waste. Ash Waste looks like, if I want to play Ash Waste, I kind of just want to play big 40k. But just the idea of the Underhive gangs, 10 on 10, or a smattering of guys versus a smattering of guys, very Kill Team-esque, just looks like so much fun. And I know that this model is going to have rules and be playable, probably something along the lines of a bounty hunter in Necromunda. But I like the idea of literally just using it as like a chance encounter, kind of like a dungeon crawler type game, a little bit like Blackstone Fortress or Curse City. But maybe every time you play Necromunda, you roll a dice, like a d6, and on a 6, you plunk her down on the battlefield, and then every turn you roll a classic scatter die, a d6 plus a scatter, to see like where she goes, and maybe make her worth like a bunch of victory points if you can actually kill her. But also, so now all of a sudden, your tactical plans, I was gonna move along this wall and then go over and attack my enemy, all of a sudden she's in the way. And so you're like, oh, maybe I'll just turn around and go a different way, or maybe I'll try to go through her and take some damage. I just see tons of hilarious play value. And just the idea of a Warhammer 40,000 hive nobleman just wandering the streets of Necromunda, just hoping that somebody accosts her so that she can just destroy them with her power sword and super spear. It's just hilarious. I can picture it in my head. I can already see it as a Warhammer TV episode. Just her being awful. Because everyone is awful in 40k. There's like 3 good guys. Cyphus Cain and like 2 others. It is hilarious. But that was not the only new thing for Necromunda. Stock up on relatively fresh meat in Necromunda with the Corpse Harvesting Party. These models are also very much along the lines of what I was praising about Helena, or whatever her name was. These models are just silly. We've got the Doctor in incredibly ornate, baroque like clothing. She looks so silly. And like she's got a veil instead of like a classic surgeon's mask. She's got like vultures and skulls on her hat head. It's hilarious. And then we've got Danny DeVito, grimdark Danny DeVito as the Penguin in 40k. Just hilarious and adorable. And then we've got Grok and Spock, the just 2 big, burly, muscly nurses. It's just hilarious. I love it. Oh, I love that the one guy, his apron has fallen down a little bit, revealing the pecs, his absolute physique. It's just so much fun. It's so silly. I love it. These models are exceptional. They're very silly. They're very fun. It's too bad that these are all probably going to be Forge Roll models. In fact, I'm sure they are. And so they're gonna be kind of expensive. But man, are they just some good, fun silliness. I remember before I was looking at buying a bunch of old metal Necromunda models, because you can actually pick them up for some reasonable prices online if you find like a good lot, if you really kind of wait and just look for stuff. But the new models are also just gorgeous. I put together the Eschers and I put together a few of the Goliath, and they're really, really smart kits from Games Workshop. They're very different from like 40k and Kill Team. They're in a slightly different scale. They're a little bit leaning closer to like 32 millimeter scale or 35 millimeter scale than the 28 millimeter scale. They're bigger, and the way that they're designed, usually you get 2 identical sprues, but you get lots and lots of options in the kit. It's a lot like if anybody's ever built the Gene Stealer cult, big giant guys, the Aberrants. The Aberrants are very like muscled, but then they do a good job of cutting in between the muscles so that you can put on different arms and it all looks perfect. And the Necromunda gangs are very much like that. They're not the Space Marine style of modular where you've got, flat areas on the shoulders where you can glue on the arms however you want. They're kind of posed, but you get so many options for those poses that it works out really, really nicely. I might have to play Necromunda. Maybe I need to send Zorpa a message and be like, yo dog, how do I get into this game? But speaking of games I am already into, I built my Black Templar Combat Patrol. I bought the Black Templar Combat Patrol, and it's lovely. It is a absolutely lovely kit. I mean, it's a bunch of kits shoved into one box together, but if you're a Black Templar player, the Black Templar Combat Patrol is the best possible thing. It's lovely. They threw in the Black Templar upgrade sprue, which is phenomenal. It comes with some really cool stuff like, what's it called? Like the Cloak of Infinity or the Shroud of Turing. It's not that. The Shroud of something or other. It's a really, really cool box. But what makes it really great is it comes with the Black Templar Sword Brethren. No, it comes with the Black Templar Crusader Squad, which is now a thing in 40k. I mean, it always was a thing in 40k since like 3rd edition when the Black Templar came onto the scene. Maybe that was 2nd edition. But what's great about this kit is it comes with 5 Sword Brethren. It comes with 5 Initiates, 1 Sword Brethren, and 4 Neophytes. But you get 4 giant frames that are full of Black Templar bits. And all those bits really let you customize the heck out of all of your Black Templar dudes. Like, I have a huge Black Templar collection, but they're mostly vanilla Space Marines painted to look like Black Templar, where these guys have belt buckles and little crucifixes and dangly bits and lanterns and chains on all their weapons. These are phenomenally Black Templar. I can't wait to paint them up. And what's great is, so I built the normal Crusader squad, how you should. I glued on a few extra dangly bits, but it comes with 6 regular bolt guns, or I guess the Primaris version of the bolt gun with the chains on them. And so I put those bolters on my regular Space Marine intercessors. And now they're all Black Templared up. I mean, these are the nicest looking Black Templar Primaris Space Marines I have, just because they have these cool bits. And I also took some skulls from the Citadel Skulls box, which should be called Skulls for the Skull Throne. It should have a cuter name than just Citadel Skulls. And then I took sewing straight pins, and I drilled a little hole through the skulls into the base, or into the backpack, and then I kind of just tapped them into place. And I think it looks really nice as Black Templar whenever they take down an enemy. Maybe every time they take down a Psyker or an enemy that's suitably badass enough, they kind of keep it as a trophy and they just nail it down. Or you can almost look at it another way, because Black Templars essentially have squires in the neophytes. Every Black Templar is assigned a scout, essentially a scout. They're Black Templar called neophytes. And the neophyte is in charge of like polishing the armor and learning as much as they can so that they can hopefully become an initiate and eventually a sword brethren. But I like to think like this guy has gone through two acolytes, and these are his 2 acolytes. They've died in the line of duty, and so he keeps them close by nailing them to his backpack. Oh, one of these guys has 3, the Power Fist guy. So he's had 3 initiates. Good old Mo, Larry, and Curly sitting up there, just honoring their legacy by keeping them close by in the midst of battle. But this is a phenomenal kit if you want to play Black Templars. If you just buy this box, and then you have tons and tons of bits to kit out the rest of your Black Templar force and make sure that every single guy is just as medieval and fearsome as any of these like made for the Black Templar Space Marine units. And you get a Castellan, and the new Castellan is wonderful. Basically, a Castellan is just the Black Templar version of a captain. It's identical in all ways but the name. But man, that is a 40k Space Marine. I mean, come on. Like, compare this to like Adrex Agatone for the Salamanders, or who's the big beefy guy for the Imperial Fists? Like, those guys are just Space Marines, but this guy, I can see him walking, strutting down the halls of some Imperial bastion with tons and tons of beautiful gold filigree and stained glass windows. This is a 40k Space Marine. I love these models so much, and I can't wait to paint them up. Man, I have 10,000 points of Space Marines, and in this box is probably another 500 points of Space Marines. And I plan on actually getting more stuff than this. I kind of want to build a Primaris, like a proper Primaris force of Space Marines for my Black Templar. I already do sort of have that. I mean, I have like 20 Space Marine intercessors and a smattering of other Primaris units, Hellblasters, suppressors, all of the things that end in ers. But I really have been enjoying my Black Templars again. I really like it, especially since I used to just airbrush on grays for my highlights, but now I've been experimenting with contrast paint and speed paint, and so I'm finding easier ways to get my Black Templar painted up to a way that I'm satisfied with and is a lot quicker. So, little Black Templar action. Although, the Black Templar were not the only thing I worked on this week. Black Friday and Cyber Monday have come and gone, and I picked up some models. I picked up Cassian Andor and his pet, K2SO, the robot, and I'm very proud of myself. I ordered them on Amazon because they were super on sale. I received the box, I opened the box that day, and I finished painting them that day. That is how everything should work. That is how we don't have piles of shame. I feel like that's how we get the most satisfaction out of our minis. Paint them up while you're super invested and excited in the models that you purchased. And it just feels good. I can throw away the instructions, I can put the empty box on the shelf, and I have the finished models. Also painted up with Army Painter Speed Paint. I have been loving Army Painter Speed Paint. But Star Wars Legion models just paint up quick and nice. If I ignore my Stormtroopers, because holy moly have I been struggling with Stormtroopers. Their white armor is tricky, and I've been doing a lot of experiments because I'm like, well, there must be some way to just get perfect, crispy, clean white armor. And then once I figure that out, I can paint like all 40 of my Stormtroopers. But currently I have like 25 test models that are all in various stages of looking really bad. but not Cassian Andor and K2SO. These models are fantastic. And I have a feeling that part of the reason why Star Wars Legion models just paint up so well is because all of these characters were designed first to be cartoons or like costumes worn by actors, and then became miniatures, where 40k miniatures are designed to be miniatures first. So they're very, very big and embellished. And all of that larger surface area and all of those details do add a lot of time to the painting. Where, I mean, Cassian Andor is, 4 different colors. He's just wearing a winter coat, essentially. And K2SO is a black robot. I mean, it's just very simple. So I've really been enjoying Star Wars Legion. It's just an easy little afternoon project that I can knock out, where this big old box of 40k is probably going to take me weeks. We'll see. But speaking of things we'll see, I have a suspicion that 40k is going to be getting a new edition. I know, shocker, right? Nobody has predicted that at all. The 10th edition is right around the corner, but it's going to happen for sure. There's 3 big things to prove this. Number 1, it's just time. Games Workshop is on a 3-year schedule. 7th edition lasts 3 years, 8th edition lasts 3 years, and so 9th edition will almost certainly last 3 years, and so we'll be seeing a new edition of Warhammer 40k 10th edition in the summer of next year. Another big reason why now it is time, though, for a new edition of Warhammer is all of the codexes are out. All the codexes for all the armies have been released. Even some new stuff like Squats and the World Eaters have got their own codexes, so I highly doubt that Games Workshop's gonna be like, all right, we finally got all the books published. Time to let everything rest for a few years. We're not gonna publish too much. Maybe we'll make a couple of models here or there. That is definitely not gonna happen. It is time for a new edition of 40k so that they can make more codex books. I like the codexes. I think that they're neat, but I think a lot of that has to do with just the nostalgia of, little high school Jay having my Necron codex in my backpack and not paying any attention in all of high school. And I'm just flipping through and reading about the Catan and the Necron shards and the War in Heaven. So like, I like the codexes. I think they really give you something nice to sink your teeth into, but it's really dumb how fast these books kind of come and go. I did a video way back where I read all of the Necron codexes that had been published from 3rd edition all the way up into 8th edition, or 9th edition, 9th edition codex. And they're all the same. In fact, all of them until the 9th edition codex all had the same lore. Essentially, the 3rd edition Necron book was slightly different, where you got almost no information whatsoever on the Necrons. And then the 5th edition Necron book is where things changed and there was like pages and pages and pages and pages of actual lore to give the Necrons some character and flavor, where before they were just super mysterious robots who were kind of maybe mind controlled by the Catan or the Catan shards, where now they're their own dynasties and they were a galaxy spanning empire, but that they were reduced to almost nothing. But the codexes are neat. I appreciate the codexes. I get why they exist, and I get why Games Workshop makes them, because you're able to get a lot of money out of consumers with those codexes, but it just stinks. I don't know if it needs to be a subscription service where you can get all of the rules online, or if just the codexes need to become a little bit more like the supplemental codexes from like 3rd edition Warhammer, where they were like, codex supplements for like, there was a bunch of Space Marine codex supplements, or the Catachan Jungle Fighters, where it was like 17 pages. It was like a little almost magazine, and that's all you need. You can fit all of the rules into a very, very small amount of paper. So I would say if they want to keep the codex format, maybe slim it down to just the rules. And then if they wanted to, what I would really like to buy is something like lore tomes, these big faction books that give you all of the lore, all of the faction information, all of the color schemes and the chapter colors and the heraldry. Maybe even have some excerpts from some of the Black Library novels that include that particular faction, and make those books for the absolute weirdos who really get into all of the 40k lore stuff. And just have easy to purchase, easy to read, easy to understand rules, like rule magazines for everything else. Because one magical time in 40k's history was early 8th edition indexes. They were still kind of expensive. I think they were like $30 a book, but there was 5 indexes, and in those indexes was every rule for every single unit in 40k ever. And so between Nick and I, we owned most of these books. And so early 8th edition, I knew about every single model's rules in all of 40k. And it was really cool. I was the only time really in 40k's history where I actually felt like I had a really good grasp of the game. But it's totally implausible and impractical to purchase codexes just to get those rules. Like, what's there, 25 factions in 40k, each book costs about $55 or $60. You're not gonna spend a couple grand to learn all of the rules. And obviously you don't need the rules for other people's armies, but if you wanna really kind of know what's going on and like what you can expect when you playing games of 40k, it is nice to have an understanding of your opponent's armies or armies that you might end up fighting. So I just think the codexes are poopy. With that said, though, I would like to issue Games Workshop an apology because the third reason that I think we're going to get a new edition of 40k very soon is we're seeing a new set of essentially lore books or end times books, or I don't know exactly what to call these. But previously we got the Gathering Storm novels in the move from at the end of 8th edition. No, at the end of 7th edition. And these books had rules for certain armies and they just pushed the story along. The coming back of Rowboat Girly Man and the Cicatrix Maledictum that was plaguing the galaxy. And then after that edition, we got the Psychic Awakening books, which are fine. I haven't read them yet, but I've like gotten some synopsises, and they're still kind of neat, and it pushes the story along. And now we are getting Ark of Omens. And Ark of Omens does not contain rules for matched play. So the competitive 40kers don't need to buy these books just to get a couple of psychic rules for their Tyranid armies, which is very nice. They do contain rules, I think, for narrative play, which is great. Narrative play is really fun, and it's always great to get new scenarios and new missions. And I think it is a much better way to handle it than to publish a smattering of new rules for the factions of 40k, matched play rules for the factions of 40k. So, which I stated in a previous Models Memories when Games Workshop announced these books, and I was like, oh no, we're getting more of these books where if you're an Imperial Guard player, you have to buy the one book that's got a picture of an Eldar on the cover because it's got 3 new orders for your army. But no, these books are kind of superfluous because you don't necessarily need to buy them. But unless you, I guess, need to know the current lore shenanigans of the Warhammer 40k universe, or if you really enjoy narrative play and you want some new missions. So good on you, Games Workshop, for changing and doing a small change that I think is for the better. But I'm very excited for 10th edition. Never played a single game in 9th edition. Played the spit out of 8th edition, 7th edition, 6th edition, but for the last few years, I guess the last 3 years, because this edition of Warhammer is almost over, nothing but Kill Team and other games, and I've been super enjoying Kill Team. But for 10th edition 40k, I will definitely be trying to get some games of 10th edition 40k in. It'll probably be the spitting image of 9th edition, hopefully with some toning down of stratagems. I don't really like stratagems. I find them annoying and confusing. I'm not much of a strategist, and so I am very bad at keeping track of all like 25, 30 stratagems that are spread across my army and understanding the synergies and the deck building and the list building that is within my faction. And I play a lot of armies, so it's really hard to keep track of all of those different things. So I would love a cleaned up, simplified way to handle stratagems. Other than that, I love the new rules, the 8th edition rules. It's much simpler from the old 7th edition and the charts and the templates. I can't wait for Warhammer 40k 10th edition that is almost certainly coming next summer. I'm very excited for that, but I am gonna have to wait a little while. But you know what is one thing I'm excited about that I don't have to wait at all for? That's right, our Patreon. Over there, we have new terrain STL packs every single month. This month, we have Wasteland Cars, perfect for creating a Mad Max-style desolate battlefield. And we have a welcome pack that includes Dawn of War-inspired Space Marine, Imperial Guard, and Eldar terrain, all hosted by Comics, Games, and Things. We also make one extra episode of Eon's Battle every single week where we take a look at our viewers' models and give them some critiques and helpful ideas on how to improve their painting. And we host a live Discord hangout where we all hop into a room and chit-chat the night away. We also have a new tier where you can get your name on one of my Black Templar Space Marines so you can join the crusade. And we also have merch, link in the description. It was a really fun week of wargaming. I actually got some things finished and painted, and thank goodness I got those finished because I actually do have a few more Star Wars Legion models coming to me in the mail, and hopefully I'll be able to get those done in the same amount of time that it took me to get old Cassian and K2 done. Thanks for watching.